the Andy Holding Speed Figures YouTube channel with day one preview of the Cheltenham Festival. It's finally here, folks. Andy joining me, Sam Turner, to look through the first day's card. And Andy, the fields have cut up quite considerably, haven't they, from what we thought they might be? We often get a small Arkle, but obviously the Supreme is only 8. There's lesser fields later as we work our way through the card as well that we might have expected. But it doesn't make winner finding any easier, does it? No,
there's still an angle in some of those races where they have cut up, I suppose, if you're looking deep enough, or you're I wouldn't say desperate for a bet, but we haven't all got a lump on Shiskin and Appreciated and Concertista. There is probably better value looking away for those in some of the place markets if you're that way inclined. Yeah. The first race in particular is a little bit of a shame. There is only 8 because I think we're all expecting at least perhaps a field of around 12 to 14. And for those of us, we're looking to back a few at bigger prices each way. The sort of irascibles and maybe the 50 balls of this world. That's rather been kicked into touch because now there's only 8 and you're just looking at the 3 places with no firms willing to go 4 or 5. It does rather back you into a corner a little bit.
Yeah, well, 50 balls a non-runner, so at least you haven't got to shell out for that one. And, of course, the lesser of the social runners that run, the less chances of your good horses getting bought down by a errant faller or whatever, or taken out of races. So it works both ways. We've got a dead 8. I mean, you'd be scrambling over yourself normally if this was 8-runner Plumpton race on a Tuesday afternoon. You'd be cataclysmic, wouldn't you, trying to get as much as you could on round the shops. Unfortunately, that facility is not open to you either this year. But where would you go for a selection? Are you very much in the favourite camp here?
I am, Sam, yeah. I've also been a bit dismayed listening to the sort of general negativity over Appreciated in the last month or so. I think everyone wanted to get him beat, but the more people wanted to get beat, the more shorter he got in the market. He wasn't one of those ones that drifted out on the back of it.
No.
I don't know if you did notice that.
I have noticed that. I've noticed a lot of people who want to get him beat. They can't have exchange accounts, that's for sure. Otherwise, he'd be pushing 2 to 1, never mind even money.
Yeah, I thought that as well. Look, based on our numbers, he's the best, only by a slight fraction. We're not talking about a horse who comes in here, with an 80 and the rest have only got like 70, 71s or something like that. He's only just marginally clear of Metier. The one thing he has got an advantage over Metier, of course, is Cheltenham Festival previous form, courtesy of the bumper. I think his body of work or the races he's running and the horses he's beat is better than Metier as well. I mean, you've only got to look at, Shake 'em Up, Harry and Tartap. I mean, Tartap was, still running now, wasn't he, in the ABF final? It didn't look a great grade 1, albeit the time was good, and the winner, you can't knock him for doing what he did in what turned out to be a solo time trial. But you do look at the Appreciated race, don't you, back at Leopardstown when he was really good on the figures that day, when he turned it on big time and he beat, Ballyadam, Irascible, the Devil's Coachman.
Blue Lord, yeah.
Blue Lord. It looked a good race on paper beforehand. Everything about the race was good. The time was good. The sectionals were good compared to the others on the card. The likes of French Seal and Master McShay, the Handicap. And albeit he wasn't quite as impressive visually on the eye next time out, I actually thought there was an extra dimension to him last time because he had horses taking him on early, like Irascible, Mingolo, who wanted to sort of test him. He had 3 horses on his right-hand side all the way down the back straight. And yet when the horses like Blue Lord and Ballyadam, who had a much easier passage racing off the speed, came at him, he went again. So it's hard to see Ballyadam having had 2 nibbles at him on genuine now soft ground, having the strength and the stamina to get up the hill and beat him again. So albeit he would normally be your each way horse, I think you're really struggling. The ground is definitely come in Metier's favour for him to run a big race. I certainly respect him. But I do think Blue Lord, is the other one you'd throw into the mix. Apparently he's worked since last time out when he finished 3rd at Leopardstown has been really good. I think the team at Close Sutton are quite fancying his chances. So I think if I was going to have a bet each way, he probably would be the one now, right at this very moment in time. But I think that would just be out of pure, I've got to have a bet, and pure devilment, as it were, just because you're having a bet because it's a dead 8 runner race and you've got to get involved. But again, the more I look at it, the more I just think of Appreciated a win.
Yeah, I echo your thoughts, really. I thought he was in an awkward position all the way around at Leopardstown. He was sort of getting half length by Russell on his outside, and you never felt that Paul Townend, although he won very comfortably, was truly happy with how the race was panning out, really. He was always just having to go a stride quicker than he wanted to, ideally, on that inside pitch. And
Yeah.
I thought he did well. He fought off a number of challenges. He was there to, effectively, you've seen a lot of horses get softened up racing like that, and he didn't. He boxed on pretty gamely. He was a workmanlike winner on tacky ground. I think he has to underperform not to win here. I think, I genuinely believe that. I think that's the only way that he does get beat, is if he underperforms. Anyway,
the other thing, just quickly to mention as well, Sam, is that he doesn't necessarily have to lead here, and I don't think he will. No. I think he's better, like he was the time before, just coming off the speed, getting a lead down to 2 out, because I think for pleasure or go off in front.
Yeah.
You can just imagine him being ahead to the hands in front and appreciate it, just sitting at the head of the echelon in behind the peloton. And I think that'll benefit him, because he not necessarily that he has to make all the running.
No, but he's a very, very strong stayer at 2 miles, and certainly with some cut in the ground, that blunts other horses' speed in the race. Okay, moving on to the Arkle then, and this is going to be running a good lick, you would think, as well, with the likes of All Mankind in this. Do you envisage a scenario where Shishkin can get beaten at 2-1?
Only if he makes mistakes, Sam, I suppose. He's going to be put under pressure from a long way. I mean, Harry Skelton will make sure that the race is going to suit his horse, and he'll go off as he always does. There's no other way of riding All Mankind. He's got to let him bowl along, play into his strengths. We'll be trying to see strides and like I say, try and get Shishkin at it at some stage. And with that in mind, obviously, the one I mentioned sometimes or in the past, Franco de Port might just be the one who, if you're playing him without the favourite market, might just come and cause some damage late on if he's handy enough at the top of the hill. I think he'll be a good 7 or 8 lengths off them early on. He won't have anything to do with the speed, but he by proxy represents that Jürgen form, doesn't he? Now he's out of the way, and we're saying that Franco de Port was a good, worthy second best. He got beaten 9 lengths, but without that slip at the second down the side, I think he would have probably got it within 4 or 5 lengths. So using that as a guide, if Jürgen was the one who was going to go close to beating Shishkin, and Shishkin wins here, something that's around about 3 or 4 lengths behind Shishkin should, in theory, finish second. So, Franco de Port's the one I'd expect to benefit from how this race might be run.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I've got anything else to add to that. I think he could be the one that All Mankind will be ridden to win the race. Franco de Port will be ridden to pick up pieces late on, and he might, you never know, he might inherit the gold medal, but more than likely he might get the silver. So perhaps a small lay of the forecast through exchanges, a small lay of All Mankind of place, perhaps, or back Franco de Port without the favourite. One of those strategies might pay off. Swiftly on to the Ultima handicap chase, and Andy, like you, I've been looking at this race for a good number of years. I've been looking at it for a good few weeks as well. I think it's a really disappointing renewal, if I'm honest. Bar the front, perhaps 2 or 3 in the market, the lightly raced novices and second season chasers. I think some of the others, they might as well send their photo, because I can't envisage a scenario where they could possibly win. You might see a Vintage Clouds second win back from a wind up at a regular in this race, jump out the ground and run a big race for a big price horse. But I thought the race really did revolve around Happy-Go-Lucky, and if he puts his best foot forward, he's going to be very tough to beat, surely.
Yeah, I mean, our figures have got him top as well, top and third top. So he's run to a very high standard already coming into the race. He fits a lot of the stats that you need for this race as well. Second season chasers, novices have got a very good record. I think 7 out of their last 8 have won. You've also got a previous Cheltenham Festival experience, which he has, finishing 4th in the boys' race behind Indefatigable, and he was unlucky at that as well when he got hampered at the last. He's also running Cheltenham as well this year, which is another thing as well. You need to have had a run at over fences at Cheltenham. So he ticks all those boxes. Then you look at, he's been saved especially for the race. He goes well fresh. He won first time up this year. He clearly stays. He stayed 3 mile 1 on the new course, which is a tougher test than this. He's ridden by a guy who's riding at the top of his game and seeing strides, 4 or 5 50 metres out almost. He's obviously riding very confidently. And like I say, when you look at the nuts and bolts of what he's up against, Sam, as well as you pointed out, this is a very, very weak race for this race standards. So it's quite easy to be seduced by his chances. And I think it's one of those ones when you look back at it, you think, well, how can I back a 7-2 shot here? But it could actually end up being really good value. It's very similar to Simply the Bets when he won the Paddy Power Plate last year. Everything about his chance looked cast iron. And he was around about the same price, around about 4-1. And it ended up being the right horse to back, Imperial Aura, again, in the Close Brothers. So sometimes you can end up looking a bit of a gift horse in the mouth, trying to look for something just because it's a double figure price and you think, well, I want to back something each way, 4 or 5 places. But I've avoided trying to do that here and just rather go with the one who I think fits all the and I think he'll be out of trouble as well. He's often ridden the first one or two. Just he can lead or he can just be beyond the speed. So even though it's a 16-runner field, effectively he's going to take that out of his game because he'll have sort of 14 or 15 behind him jumping the first. Happy go lucky for me, Sam. Yeah.
Okay, onto the Blue Ribbon event of the afternoon, then the Champion Hurdle, and I can't ever remember. Well, I probably can remember, but in just recent times, this race has really grabbed everybody's attention. I think with the 2 mares at the top of the market, obviously Goshen in there as well. That'll be an absolutely romantic victory if that was to win, given the year that the Moors have been through with Jamie's injury, Jamie's wife's illness, what happened to the horse in the Triumph Hurdle. So I don't think there'll be a dry eye in the house if that manages to oblige Goshen. And also a very strong supporting cast as well, with Abracadabra second in the Supreme, Sharjah second in the Champion Hurdle, Silver Streak third in the Champion Hurdle 2019, Aspar Tower, a dark horse of the Mullins camp, James de Burley, Not So Sleepy, good front runner. I'm not going to mention Saldier because I couldn't fancy that, but it's a very deep race, even though we haven't got tons of runners.
Yes, Sam, definitely. I think this is the most wide-open competitive champion I've seen for a little while now. Lots of permutations. I think the first thing to say, it should be soundly run. Mm-hmm. Probably that's putting my foot in it to suggest now it'll be a slowly run race, but you'd like to think
Not So Sleepy in the race, can it? Surely.
Well, that's by Tower as well. I mean, you don't want to be holding a horse like that up. I mean, Silver Streak made the run-in as well last time out at Kempton, and that seemed to suit him. So I don't think they're going to be reverting to dropping him out the back. So the likes of Epatton and Honeysuckle, who are both kickers off fast paces, that they should have the perfect setup. But that'll also suit others in the race as well, like Abracadabra and Sharjah, who's the top of our figures. And having put up Abracadabra sort of this time last year, directly after Cheltenham, at least he comes in here in reasonably good shape with that sort of each way feel to him. I thought he might have done a little bit more than he has done this season, i.e. he's disappointing runner. Leopardstown 2 runs ago, he's a little bit hard to sort of get out the system. And he was beaten fair and square by Honeysuckle last time out. So what where you can make a real solid case out for him, if he runs to the Shiskin form, you've just got to hope that's going to be the case rather than his last 2 runs, which can easily come about here back at Cheltenham and on slightly better ground. But I've long thought that Sharjah's the overpriced one, Sam. He was always going to come here under the radar because of his defeat last time out. But that outer track at Leopardstown, funny enough, I went back and watched the video of the race that he won previously and just looked at the difference between how far in they race on that inner track and how far wide they race out. And it's unreal. It must be probably about 50, 60 yards difference. So that wider open galloping track on the outside has done for him every single time. And yet he's 3 for 3 around that inside track. And Cheltenham, as he looked, he's got a very, very similar circumference and it's a very, very tight turning top bend. You need to be sharp. You need to be a nimble, quick horse to cope with that inside track. And it's no real reason or no real surprise to me why he ran well in last year's Champion Hurdle, given the nature of the inside course. The ground's going to be a lot better than it was last year. I think it'll be probably good to softs in places when they run tomorrow with a little bit more of a drying overnight in the morning. So I think at this very moment in time, around about, was it 12 to 1 for Sharjah?
Yeah.
He looks the one with 4 or 5 places who you'd be thinking, well, given how this race is going to be ridden and given that it'll be a last at the top of the hill, I mean, he scythed through the pack last year, 17 runs to end up finishing second. I think he's going to do the same again. He'll definitely run himself into the frame barring accidents, and you just never know if he's got some horses that have run themselves into the ground at the front. He might just get his head in front.
Yeah, 4 places with most firms, 5 with hills, and I like the angle that he's had 1 less run this year as well. I think he just had the 2 runs this year. Okay, yeah, he was abysmal in that last race. You've explained the reasons for that, but he's been abysmal in that race before now, so it's not as if it's a race you can't explain away. You've got a ready-made excuse, and he bounced back off an abysmal run last year, like you say, to finish placed in 3 lengths behind Epatante. He travelled as well as the winner that day. She was in a better track position. She probably quickened a little bit better, and I think she's the one horse in the race for me that has got that turn of foot. Providing the ground doesn't blunt her speed, I think she's a big player. But I think if you've got the opportunity to back Sharjah, 10 to 1 4 places or 9 to 1 4 places, you should take it really.
I think so. Yeah. It's just one of those races where I think with the special offers that the bookmakers are giving you, you've got to have a crack at it. 5 places in a 10-runner race. I mean, it just doesn't happen, does it? And when you've got a horse like an Abracadabra or Sharjah who are ridden the way they're ridden to come through and run on strongly at the end, it just looks the play to me. If they don't win, they don't win. But you'd like to think you get majority of your money back barring accidents with either one of those 2.
Yes. Okay. So you take a split stakes approach and back the both each way.
Well, yeah. I mean, like I say, but I've already backed Abracadabra last year, so I'm looking at it now. I'm thinking, well, what can I do now to make the most of this situation that's presented with us? And Sharjah is undoubtedly the value of the 2.
Yeah, you'd probably back that with a blank sheet of paper anyway, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okie doke. All right, let's move on to the Close Brothers Mares Hurdle. This is probably one of your stronger views of the week. Concertista in the win market. You've been all over that. Any reason to desert her?
Not really, Sam. No. She beat the best, other than Roxanne, of course, over in Ireland last time out. Black Tears well beaten. Minella Melody well beaten. Time was good. I must admit, at halfway, I thought, God Almighty, she's got a lot to do here. But she really did turn on the turbo from 2 out to the line. She's a very good horse at this time of year, good at Cheltenham. She got beat the first year, but only just by Team de Soy. Arguably the best winner visually at last year's Cheltenham Festival. Again, over 2 miles, and she's proven that she gets the 2.5 mile trip no problem. So it's very difficult for me to go against her. But again, this is one of the races where I think there's more than one way to skin a cat. Don't really want to be putting up Concertista at 11 to 10, but I think there's a horse in this race without the favourite market. If you shop around actually without the front 2 in the market, you can get an unbelievable price about it, which is Black Tears.
Second in a Coral Cup last year to Dame de Compagnie.
Yeah, obviously got to find a little bit with Dame de Compagnie if you go strictly down those terms. Although Dame de Compagnie has had a rather unusual ride into this race, having won a 2-runner race over fences and unseated rider last time out. Not exactly ideal. But Black Tears had a smooth preparation. Similar to last year, she needed her first 2 runs, but come Cheltenham or come the turn of the year, she really starts to bloom. And her victory last time out signal that she's coming back to her best. Good time figures, second on our figures in just a 6-runner race. The 3rd horse, Darren's Hope, won at Limerick on Sunday, boosting that form line. Ground's in her favour. She'll be ridden, as she always is, sort of mid-div, creeping around the inside, and then, produced to do her best towards the back end. And hopefully she'll at least finish in the first 3 or 4 to, get the each way bet up. And if, she finishes second to the favourite, then happy days.
And every chance she could improve for switching to that informed trainer, Denise Foster as well.
Absolutely. Well, it's certainly been noted. She hasn't done a bad job, has she? How much input she's having there, I don't know. I don't think she's going to come in and say, right, we're going to change it this way. We're going to do it like this.
No.
I don't think that's happened for 1 minute, but it certainly hasn't gone backwards since she's been there a fortnight anyway.
No. Okay, status quo maintained then at Cullentra. Right, on to the Boodles then, the Juvenile Handicap Hurdle. 22 in this. This is probably going to be double the size field that we're going to get for a Triumph Hurdle on Friday, which baffles me, and more of that later in the week. But 4 British horses in a Triumph hurdle at the 5 or 6 day stage is just staggering to me. But anyway, we've got a warm favourite here in Hugri, who's sort of shot to the head of the market on, well, rumour really and circumstance. Obviously, everybody can see the plot that he's just had the one run in the graded race at Chepstow. Comes from a yard that have done very similar in past renewals of this race with the likes of Diego de Charmy. They've protected his handicap mark off 128. He's done some good work at Wincanton on an away day. But he does make the market for other horses, you know, those spring juvenile horses. And is that still the way you're going to go, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, it is easy to get wrapped up in the hype, I suppose, with a horse like that. I wouldn't say you've heard it all before, because it has happened before with Diego de Charmy. I remember... I think you got a very good message for that, didn't you, pre-Cheltenham, and that came to fruition. So you'd be foolish to take no notice of it whatsoever. And let's face it did run in a Grade 1 last time out and ran well till 2 out until getting tired. So he's not like a complete where on earth if you got that from, head scratcher. And, you know, there's a good chance that he'll improve quite dramatically, as you say, from that run to here, and clearly been safe for the race. But, you know, being a figures man, I'm not going to be putting that up and saying, right, here's the reasons why. I mean, sometimes, you know, you have to have a little bit of flexibility and a little bit of intuition when it comes to looking at the numbers, and not and in a race like this, almost trying to think, well, what's going to improve? You might have something that's done a massive number, but are they going to improve? Is there something that's run to a 65 that's going to be capable of running to a 70 and upwards? So I think this one's a little bit more tricky with regards to numbers, but based on the figures we have got in front of us at the moment, undoubtedly the best form is the run behind Calixios, and that brings in St Sam and Bustleton. Calixios a strong fancy for the Triumph, and I think he'll run well in that, no reason why. And if you tie those two together with Zanna here as well in the slowly run race the time before, they've run against the best 2 juveniles so far. I think the Irish are definitely stronger than the English. That there's no doubt. But you're getting sort of 5-1 St Sam, 9-1, 10-1 Bustleton. If you were to perm those together, I think the hood going off of St Sam might well help him, because he's looked a little bit headstrong. Last time out, he made the run. He did really well, by the way, to keep going as well as he did, considering how much energy expended. And hopefully the cheek pieces just might sharpen up Bustleton, who was a little bit lethargic for most of that graded race, it has to be said, at Leopardstown. So you just got to hope with him that's perhaps the bigger field, and like I say, cheek pieces just awaken him up a bit. But look, you know, you're getting 6 places if you shop around for some each-way value for him. I'd respect Riviere d'Etel because it's trained or comes from the Elliott camp, if you like. They've done really well in this race, and she did a good number when third behind the Devil's Coachman. She just does jump to her right a little bit, and she can be a little bit keen. She's going to have to settle down. I think if you back her, the first part of the race is very important. But I think the Irish, apart from Ugra, I think the Irish will win it. I think they've got strongest form, and I'm just going to be concentrating on Bustleton at the same time. Okay,
great stuff. And then on to the finale then, where we've got, well, this is probably one of the longest term plots that I've ever seen at the Cheltenham Festival, because we've yet to see, well, we haven't seen Galvin since October. Admittedly, he's been usurped at the top of the market by Next Destination. He's been backed off the boards today for probably around 5-1 to half those odds. My only reservation with him is that he's beaten a sum total of 6 rivals. He's only had 2 runs over fences as well. That's not a particularly great and compelling stat when you come to this race. Horses with experience are much better suited. I do like his attitude, and I like the way he jumps. So I wouldn't want to put a fork in him and lay him, but it then builds value into some of the others, doesn't it? Like Iscaria 10, Remastered, etc., etc. So where are you going? Yeah, plus the fact that I don't really associate Paul Nicholls with this race, and like I say, I don't want to just sort of use that as a cop out. But if you like, he doesn't train the kind of horse normally that comes here. No. But the race parameters have changed. I think this is much more classy than Renewal than it was back in the day when the Wish Dubs of this world were winning it. So I do expect. To be fair, we did beat an Irish Grand National winner that day. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm not because I don't want to throw cold water at him completely. But I think genuine Grade 2 and Grade 1 horses arguably come here now, or can come here now. And Next Destination has got a good attitude, but I prefer Galvin out of the front 2 in the market, undoubtedly. He's got Cheltenham Festival experience. He's got Cheltenham form in abundance.
I don't think the switch to Ian Ferguson will be a problem because he broke him in as a young horse, so he knows him inside out. So yeah, I think he should be favourite, but I think Remastered, getting onto him very quickly, he comes out quite well on the figures, and I liked his attitude when he won the Reynolds-Town the other day. Strong Grade 2, running a good time figure. The last circuit was in keeping with the 2 mile 5 race, won by First Flow. If you do like-for-like circuit comparisons. So he's got a bit of tactical speed. He stays well. He jumps well as well. And with, you'd never rule out David Pike winning on the first day of the festival. I think he's the remaining value left, having run a similar kind of level to both Galvin and Next Destination, i.e. in graded races.
Okay. Now the reins come out, quite like Ascaria 10. I'm not bonkers on Adrian Heskin taking over from Jack Kennedy, if I'm honest. But look, he has ridden him a couple of times and won on him. But he just looks a dyed-in-the-wool stayer for me. It's just a horse that should just keep grinding away if Adrian can get him round. But I really do like Remastered. They've obviously chosen this race over the Handicap, which I'm surprised at in some respects, because off 146, I think it'd have been a right danger in the Handicap as well. Yeah,
I agree with that. I mean, like I say, the spin of a coin, really. If you look at the likes of Ascaria 10 Remastered, they've got the profiles that you look at here. And the only thing that put me off Ascaria 10 to some degree was that he didn't really shine in last year's festival. Maybe that I'm reading something into nothing, but I've gone with Remastered anyways. I've had a few quid on him.
Okay, that's brilliant, Andy. Yeah, very thorough appraisal of day one. Look forward to chatting to you, and we'll do it all again for day two very shortly.
Hopefully we'll be in a decent mood come this time tomorrow when we do the second one.
Fingers crossed. Thanks again.
Cheers, Sam.